Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I'm so happy that you are here. If you're brand new to my channel, let me give you the quick spiel. So I taught from January to June of last school year because I graduated from my student teaching in December. So I'm going into my second half of my first year teaching, really. But now I am moving to a new school. I'm still going to be teaching 9th grade biology. And exciting news, I'm also going to be the assistant cheer coach at my school. And I'm so excited about that because it's always been a goal of mine to be a coach as well as a teacher. And I was a cheerleader when I was in high school, so it just feels very full circle, and I am just so excited about it. With all that being said, I still consider myself a first year teacher, so I feel like I need lots of advice and I am constantly asking for it, and I just know there's so much that I can learn. I learned a lot during the 6 months that I was teaching, but I just know that there's so much more for me to learn, and experiencing the first half of the school year is completely different than the second half of the school year, so I just know that I'm in for a wild ride and I am so excited for it. So the premise of this video is basically advice for first year teachers. And I know what you're thinking, Kayla, you just said that you consider yourself a first year teacher, why are you giving advice? Well, I actually asked a bunch of veteran teachers for advice, and I'm going to be giving the advice that they gave me to you guys, because this video is helping me and it's also hopefully going to help you. So I'm going to be putting screenshots on the screen of the people who gave me advice. I asked on my teacher Instagram, I asked on my personal Instagram, and I also asked on TikTok, because if you want something answered, you go to TikTok. I also tried to break these up into categories because a lot of people gave the same advice, which I think speaks volumes because it just shows how important that piece of advice is. So the first category is building relationships with your students. And this piece of advice says that relationships are vital. Social and emotional learning are just as important as it takes. And I think that that is just such a great piece of advice, because if you try to go into your classroom and you don't spend time getting to know your students, making them feel like they are an actual person in your classroom and not just a number, they're not going to want to learn from you. They're going to think you're just a robot up there trying to teach them whatever your subject is. You have to make them feel welcomed in your classroom and make them want to be there and want to learn from you, and realize that you also are a human and you really care for them and you have their best interests at heart, and you want to teach them this really awesome content, but you also want to get to know them as a human and just make them feel important and welcomed, and that your classroom is a community. The next branch of advice was to ask for help. Ask from veteran teachers, ask from the support system you have around you, ask from your mentor teacher. Just ask for help when you need it. There's no need to try to figure everything out on your own when you have an entire team of people around you in your personal life and in your teaching life that are there to help you. So take advantage of that. If you need help with lesson plans, usually you have a team to help you with that, but don't be afraid to ask for that. One of the advice said that you already give so much. You're giving to your students, you're giving to your coworkers, you're just giving so much every day. Don't be afraid to receive it also. Make sure that you are also taking in help instead of just trying to offer it. And staying in that category, another piece of advice said that nobody expects you to know it all your first year. Veteran teachers still don't know it all, so you don't have to pretend like you do know it all, because you're not expected to. And it would honestly be kind of a miracle if you did, because people who've been teaching for years and years still don't really know everything. So don't be afraid to not know what you're doing for a little bit, because those people are there to help you. You'll figure it out. It'll all be okay. This next piece of advice is really helpful. When I taught from January to June of last year, I really wished I would have kept better track of this stuff, because towards the end of the year, it all kind of came crashing down on me, and I just wasn't aware of how much work needs to be done in this category. And that is just staying ahead of your paperwork. Make sure you have your SPED and your 504 paperwork done every single week. Keep a binder for all of that stuff. Maybe have a separate folder for each student that needs accommodations or modifications. Just make sure that you really stay on top of it. Talk to your caseworkers, talk to your SPED teachers, and just work as a team with them and make sure that everyone is on top of that and those students are getting the help that they need, because they wouldn't have all this paperwork if they didn't need it. Another piece of advice said to make copies well in advance and just prepare yourself to hate the copy machine, because it's always going to break. The next piece of advice was to make sure that you create work and home boundaries. You are a teacher at school, but whenever you get home, you are a human who has many different interests and many different things that make up who you are versus just being a teacher. Don't feel like you have to be planning in all hours of the night after you get home from school. Don't feel like you have to use all of your weekends to be creating these awesome lesson plans and, just trying to get ahead of everything that you can. I know that myself, I kind of fell into this trap where I felt kind of guilty for not doing that stuff when I saw people on Instagram doing it, or teachers on TikTok spending their Sundays, getting all their stuff ready. And while it's great, those people aren't bad teachers or bad people for, wanting to spend time doing that. But don't feel like you have to be doing that every single weekend or every single weeknight to be a good teacher. Sure, there are some weekends that you might need to grade because you're a little bit behind or you need to plan a lesson. But I just feel like it's important to make sure that you don't have to do that every single night or every single weekend. Like this person said, you can't pour from an empty cup. So make sure that you are filling yourself with what makes you happy before trying to tackle all of these tasks that you have to do for school. This next piece of advice is kind of funny, but I feel like I heard it a lot in college, and it is to kind of be mean or be harder on your students at the beginning of the year, because you can always ease up on them. But if you start off really easy and you let all kinds of things fly and they're kind of allowed to do whatever they want, there's no way that you can rein them back in because they're already used to you being like that. So I actually did this when I taught from January to June. I felt like I was a little hard on my students during that time because it was my first time being in a classroom by myself, being the actual teacher. So honestly a little scared, and so I was kind of hard on them and I didn't let them get away with much. But towards the end of the school year, I feel like I did a complete 180. I was able to ease up because the students already knew what I expected from them. And you can even ask, or I guess you can't ask, but if I were to ask my old students what they thought of me at the beginning of the year, it'd be completely different from their answer of what they thought of me at the end of the year. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny, but it does help to be harder on them at the beginning of the year. Make sure you have all the procedures and stuff in place for them. Make sure they know what is expected of them, and then you can always, lighten up towards the end of the school year. This next category is in regards to classroom decor and classroom supplies and stuff. I got lots of advice saying to not go overboard on the cutesy stuff or even classroom supplies. Number one, I teach high school, so my students are not going to really care how cutesy my classroom is. I'm going to make it cute for me and add some pieces that I like in there and some greenery and some plants and stuff. Stay tuned for my classroom video whenever I finally get a chance to see it. You don't have to make it super, super cute. You do want it to feel warm and inviting for both you and your students. You want them to feel like they are at home whenever they're in your classroom, but you don't have to go spend hundreds of dollars on decor to make your classroom look cute and like a Pinterest classroom and like all these, Instagram classrooms. It's great if you do want to do that and that makes you happy and you feel like it makes your students happy, but I just don't really like the pressure that a lot of teachers feel to make their classroom look so cute and expected to buy it all with their own money. That just seems a little bit crazy to me. No other job has to spend all their money to make their work environment cute. And yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say with this, but you don't have to go overboard buying all the cutesy decor. If you want to, that's really, really cool, but also if you don't want to, that's also cool. You don't have to do that. And then as far as supplies and stuff go, a lot of the time districts provide more than you think. This doesn't apply to every single school and every single district because every case is different, but I would suggest that you get into your classroom and you figure out what does your school provide you, what do you need to buy, what are they not providing enough of, and then go from there. Don't go ahead and buy all the stuff that you think you need before you really find out what you need, so that you can really just buy the things that are really important and that aren't already being provided to you. And with all that being said, I also heard that they do provide more than you think typically, but they also might not provide enough of some stuff, so you might have to spend some of your own money on certain things, maybe like pencils. You can never have too many pencils, especially in high school. I teach 9th grade, so there were so many days last school year where people asked for pencils, and I'm really glad that I had them. It was probably every single day, at least 2 to 3 class periods, someone needed a pencil. So if I recommend spending your money on one thing, it would be pencils. This next piece of advice I didn't hear very often, and I thought that it was really important to share, and that is to practice instant forgiveness for both yourself and your kids. You have to remember that your students are kids. They're still learning, they're still trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, and I feel like every single day you should start a new mindset. If one class period really, had a really bad day the day before, don't hold that against them the next day. Or if one student is really just having a hard time paying attention, is constantly, disrupting your class, okay, they did that on Wednesday, but on Thursday you're going to give them a whole new shot, and you're going to treat them with kindness and forgiveness, and you're going to make sure you don't hold that against them, because kids can sense that stuff. They know when you're holding a grudge, they know when they might not feel like your favorite, and honestly, it just makes it worse. So I would say that you just need to reset every single day, every single class period, and just hope that it's going to be a good day. And most of the time, that really helps, and it is a good day. But I'm not going to say there aren't bad days. Every single job has bad days. Teaching, it's different every single day. So of course you're going to have, some harder days, but just don't hold that against yourself or any of your students. Next piece of advice is to try not to do too many things at once. Just find one or two things that you really need to focus on. Maybe you really need to focus on classroom management as first-year teachers. I'm pretty sure that's what we all need to focus on, because it'll be our first year actually managing, 26 students in a classroom. Myself personally, I'm really going to be focusing on that this year. Just pick one or two or three things that you need to focus on for the school year, or maybe even just 9 weeks or semester. Focus on those things, and you can always switch and start focusing on something else the next 9 weeks or the next quarter, or however your school does their different grading periods. These next pieces of advice have to do with planning. There's lots of different advice when it comes to planning, but the ones that I really wanted to say are to overplan. You're never going to regret that you overplanned. It's when you underplan that you kind of get mad at yourself. So maybe plan a whole week in advance, or plan 2 weeks in advance if you can. A lot of the times in high school we plan by unit, so we have about 3 weeks or 4 weeks done most of the time, just so we can all be on the same page and we know what we're doing. And then also have a backup plan for things with technology, because a lot of the time technology can fail, and it's great. It helps our students learn very well. One-on-one technology is doing wonders for a lot of students, but it is technology, so it is, gonna fail sometimes. And this person actually said that be sure to have a backup plan for technology whenever you have a walkthrough planned, because most of the time it fails when you have a walkthrough and your principal is coming to observe your class. And I just think that's funny, because last year that actually happened to me. I had my observation, it was actually my formal observation, and I needed a bunch of technology, and the entire system in my classroom broke and it just wasn't working. Nobody could get it fixed. So and I didn't have a backup plan. I just really had to hope for the best, and it went fine, but I really wish I would have had a backup plan already all planned out, because it would have made my life a lot easier. So have a backup plan. And going along with work-life balance, someone said to only use your school email during school hours, and I feel like that is a really good piece of advice, and I'm going to try to do that. And then books that people recommended, I got Reading the First Days of School by H. Wong a few times, so I feel like that is probably going to be a really good book to read. I remember my professors mentioning that in college, actually. I think I might have it somewhere. I need to go try to find it. But a lot of people recommended it, so I feel like that is a really good book to read, and my college professors also recommended it to read before your first year of school, so I'm going to go try to find that and start reading that. I think it'll be helpful. These last few pieces of advice are advice from me. So like I said, I consider myself a first year teacher, but I did feel like I learned a thing or two during my 6 months of teaching last school year, and I just want to share them with you. My first tip would be to find hopeful, positive mentors. It really goes a long way when you have a group of positive people around you who really support their kids, who want the best for their kids, who think their kids can do really great things and are capable of, learning the material and doing really well on it, versus being around a group of people who are a little bit pessimistic or just don't really care that much. And if you find yourself with a group of people who maybe are the second part of what I just said, try to find a group of mentors or teachers outside of them and talk to them about the stuff that you need help with, because you know that they're going to be positive and they're going to support you, and they're going to actually give you solutions to maybe problems that you're having, and not just keep complaining about the problems. They're going to actually try to help you solve them and help you become a better teacher and become a more positive teacher, because students can really tell when you're a positive teacher and when you're a pessimistic teacher. So going back to my advice, just find a group of teachers around you that are good mentors and that are positive people and that really believe in their students and believe in themselves as teachers, because whoever you surround yourself with is who you're going to become most like. So would you rather be, positive teacher or pessimistic teacher? Gotta choose your groups wisely. Second piece of my advice is just, if you have the opportunity, is to observe the teachers around you. Maybe observe teachers who have been at that school for a while that you look up to. See how they interact with their students, how they teach a specific part of the lesson, how they teach a specific unit. What labs do they do in their classroom? How do they get their students up and moving? Because as teachers, you're able to learn from other teachers all the time. You might find something that works in one teacher's classroom and it might work in your classroom, it might not. But you only know that if you talk to that teacher, observe what they're doing, and try to implement it in your classroom. And inevitably, I think that's how teachers grow, is by watching other teachers and kind of taking bits and pieces from their mentors and trying to incorporate that in their own classroom. All right, only 2 more and then we're done. These 2 kind of go hand in hand. The first one is to not neglect your physical and mental health. Make sure that whenever you come home, you are doing something that fills your cup back up, that recharges you, that makes you feel like a human again, and that you haven't just heard your name screamed at you, 8 million times that day. For me, that is, I really enjoy taking pictures. I'm really into photography right now. I love reading books. I love hanging out with my dog, taking her to the dog park, doing fun stuff like that. That really helps fill my cup up. And I also really enjoy cleaning and cooking dinner as of lately, so that also kind of gives me my me time, and it takes my mind off of teaching a little bit. And then as far as physical health, maybe just go on a walk after school, or if you're really into fitness, go to the gym, do your thing, but don't let that stuff fall through the cracks. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself just as much as you're trying to take care of your students. This last piece of advice really does piggyback off of what I just said, and that is just to make sure that your whole life doesn't revolve around teaching. Yes, you are a teacher, but you also are many other wonderful things, and it's important to make sure that you give time to those things as well. Make sure that you hang out with your friends and your family, and you do the hobbies that you enjoy, and you give yourself time to recharge and take care of your mental health and all of those things. Teaching is an incredible job. It's so rewarding, it's so fulfilling, and it just honestly is the best job in the world in my opinion. But it can take a lot out of you. So just make sure that you are taking care of yourself, doing what makes you happy outside of teaching. So those are all the pieces of advice that I got from veteran teachers, and also just some things that I learned during my short time of teaching last year. If you have any other advice for first-year teachers, please leave it in the comments down below. We can never get enough of it, so whatever you have to say, it'll be really appreciated. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I am going to be doing a lot of teaching related videos soon. I'm going to do a classroom supplies and decor video. I'm going to do a classroom setup video whenever I actually get to see it, and then I also have a teacher clothing haul coming pretty soon, so if any of that piques your interest, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'd really love it if you stuck around, but if not, it's totally fine. I kind of get it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're a first year teacher, good luck. You're going to do great things, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!